132 in Gurnee, there is road work in the right lane scheduled till 3 this afternoon. Inbound Kennedy, delays start at Canfield. It's 32 minutes O'Hare to downtown, 21 from Montrose, 13 on the Express. Outbound 19 minutes to the airport. The Eisenhower, 40 minutes, 390 to downtown, 27 from Wolf. Outbound 25 minutes to 390. Stevenson 33 minutes, 355 to Lakeshore Drive. Ryan 17 minutes from 95th. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Rain and drizzle expected, breezy by the afternoon, and a high of 64. Mild with rain tapering off overnight, low 53. Currently 53 at O'Hare. Next news coming up at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, and your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. Let freedom ring this afternoon at 2 with Sean Hannity on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, and of course, much discussion about Joe Biden canceling the Keystone Pipeline and costing 11,000 people their jobs. Less attention to the other policies in this vein that need to be discussed, recognized, assessed. Biden last week canceled the sale of 80 million acres of Gulf of Mexico oil leases that was scheduled for last week, Wednesday, in New Orleans. Mike Moncla, president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, said it would kill our state, it would kill workers, it would kill jobs, it would be a terrible thing. These nearly 250,000 Louisiana residents work in the oil and gas industry. 98,000 of them have offshore jobs. But you recall Biden banned all new oil and gas leases on public land and waters for 60 days in an executive order that he inked on January 20th, the day he took office. So the carnage potentially continues depending on what ultimately the administration's position will be on those leases. Now, the flip side is, I learned this morning, we played this for you last hour, Katie Heavener is a second grade school teacher at Polaris Charter Academy in Chicago. And she read us all the book A is for Activist, which I'm shocked has not been a National Book Award winner yet. And she provided some context for the new alphabet, the Maoist alphabet that our kids are being taught. S is for solar, but, please listen to Katie's explanation of solar there. Not just the rhyme in the Maoist book, but her subsequent explanation.
S is for sun, sol, solar. Superstar, stellar power, fuels all life, not just flowers. Energized homes, cars, and showers. Silly, selfish scoundrels, sucking on dinosaur sludge. Boo, hiss.
Ooh.
So for this one, it's saying that the sun is our best source of power. So you can move to electric power, or you can, like solar power, and collect all your power from the sun, just like plants do. So it's not just for the plants, it can be for us too. Because a lot of our power right now comes from gasoline. And gasoline comes from the earth. And basically what that is very, very, very old dinosaur bones that have been mashed down and turned into sludge that turns into oil. And that oil is what we put in our cars, and we use it to fuel a lot of things in our country. And so this page is saying, instead of using all that stuff that's in the ground that's going to run out pretty soon, we could just use the sun, because the sun's not going to run out.
Whew.
Oh, boy.
I don't think she's got quite the science right or a handle on the amount of natural resources available. But you know what? That is not dissimilar from some of the positions you hear AOC and the Socialist Spice Girls or the Democrat Socialist Party writ large taking. So I guess it's as meritorious as any. For a reaction to that, pleased to be joined by Alex Epstein, founder of the Center for Industrial Progress, author of The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels. What? And blogs at energytalkingpoints.com. Alex, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Now, you just heard from a licensed educator redefining the alphabet for us that solar power is where it's at. Then we don't have to take that yucky stuff out of the ground.
Yeah, so it wasn't quite accurate. I mean, one way to think about fossil fuels, just talking about dinosaurs, it's not really from dinosaurs, but what it is from is it's ancient solar power. So it's plants that grew millions and millions of years ago, and nature has concentrated them and stored them into something that we can, at low cost, transform into usable energy that can power planes and cargo ships and produce electricity and do everything else. And the fact is that there's really nothing in the world right now that's nearly as good as these fossil fuels at producing low-cost, on-demand electricity and other forms of energy for billions of people. The closest is nuclear, which is also a naturally concentrated and stored source of energy. And what's interesting is that the people who claim that they're concerned about global warming are also the biggest advocates of nuclear, even though that's by far the most promising ultimate replacement for fossil fuels that doesn't emit CO2.
And so the policies that the Biden administration has pursued so far, the much publicized cancellation of the Keystone Pipeline, but also the cancellation of these leases I mentioned at the outset, if it continues, the administration continues in that policy direction, what are the implications?
Yeah, there are several really bad implications. I mean, in general, when you restrict energy production, what happens is the price of energy goes up, the reliability goes down, and that means the cost of everything goes up. And if you're talking about, energy disruption is particularly damaging. One consequence is it doesn't just destroy jobs in the energy industry, it destroys jobs in every other industry. If you look at, say, the U.S. compared to China, their industrial electricity use is already 5 times what ours is, and ours is stagnating, in part because our prices have been increased thanks to a lot of addition of solar and wind, which doesn't replace the fossil fuels. It just adds to the cost of fossil fuels because they always need the backup. And so, that's just one of many, many negative implications, is that our industry gets harmed. And already it's been harmed by this solar and wind, which China doesn't use nearly as much of. And they produce our solar and wind mostly with their coal. So, yeah, if this continues, it's tremendously destructive to even just our industrial economy. And there are many, many other consequences, such as higher consumer prices, huge declines in national security as our economy tanks and as we become more dependent on foreign countries for energy.
But Biden and his spokesperson there, Jen Psaki, say, it's job loss on the front end, but it's going to be job gains on the back end, all the green jobs that are coming online that those who were working on the Keystone Pipeline can get. And we're just in a transitionary period. And once we make that transition, it's going to be milk and honey.
Right. You mentioned this website, energytalkingpoints.com, where people, if they want a lot of detail on this, they can look at that. But just 3 big points about the green jobs. So there's no way this will work because the green jobs are far less productive. They're largely based in China. And as I mentioned just now, they cause job losses in other industries because they cause skyrocketing energy prices. Look, if this stuff were actually good, it could compete on a free market. So you wouldn't need to get rid of pipelines. You wouldn't need to stop these projects. You just need to let everyone free. Why don't they do that? Because they know on some level that these things aren't remotely competitive. In fact, they have huge subsidies and mandates right now. You look at the situation in Texas. Why is it that Texas is shutting down a lot of their reliable electricity capacity, particularly nuclear and coal? Like, why are they on that trajectory? And there's more and more solar and wind. We saw in these blackouts that solar and wind totally did not produce anything, and they wouldn't have even if there had been no turbines, just because the sun and the wind don't cooperate with when you need energy. And yet why are they being used so much? Because of so many different subsidies and mandates. So they're already given huge favors, and they're already causing huge costs and reliability problems. And so Biden, by forcing them down our throats, this is not a transition in the sense of an evolution. It's a transition in the sense of a regression. So it's really unfortunately, this administration is a very regressive administration where they're going to take us back, not forward.
And so how do you react when you hear politicians like Gavin Newsom declare that by 2035, California will be electric car only? I mean, you can incentivize automakers to make electric cars only by subsidizing them. But the energy production is still a whole nother matter. So that how the electricity is produced to power the new and exciting electric fleets is another matter.
Yeah, exactly. So electric car is not the same as solar powered car, because you have to ask, well, how are the materials being mined? How are they being processed? Where's the manufacturing happening? And that's mostly fossil fueled. So yeah, even if you did have just battery cars by 2035, it would be overwhelmingly produced by fossil fuels. I live in California, and so if you look at what's happening with our electricity policy, is we're forcing more and more of what I call these unreliables, this unreliable solar and wind. That's already causing us huge problems. And just to give an indication of how unrealistic some of these things are, California has just contracted for a large amount of new natural gas electricity supply this summer to avoid the blackouts last summer. If you look at charts, I posted this on, if you look at twitter.com/Alex Epstein, I posted, I think last week, last summer during the heat wave, Los Angeles was overwhelmingly powered by coal from other states. So it's just a total farce that these things are competitive. Really what they are is they're parasites on the reliable sources of energy. But what Biden is trying to do is he's trying to mandate the parasites, and that can only lead to disaster.
And I don't know what it's like in California, but in Illinois, gas prices jumped about 60 cents a gallon within the past few weeks. How bad is it out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's well over $4 in different places here. And you just look at that, so that's bad. But you think about, well, what Biden is advocating is he wants it to be completely unaffordable. He wants it to be illegal. So you think about, well, yeah, it's bad to have $4 a gallon gasoline, but imagine having EVs at California prices with California and Texas reliability. Like, that's much worse than $4 a gallon. So they want to prevent it. They want to make gasoline prohibitively expensive, and ultimately they want to outlaw it.
E is for energytalkingpoints.com. That's the website for information to provide some response to the shibboleths you're hearing from the Biden administration. He is Alex Epstein, founder of the Center for Industrial Progress, author of The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels, and again, blogger at energytalkingpoints.com. Alex, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-500-5588. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-500-5588 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-500-5588 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-500-5588.
All right, what are you doing for yourself? What are you doing for your own castle? Taking care of it, getting enough sleep, exercising? I know this time change is still just wreaking havoc on the sleep, but what you can do is watch what you eat. What would you put in your mouth? And are you getting enough